It's time for On Point with Julian Phillips.
Welcome to the latest edition of On Point. And I got to tell you right now, it's getting down to the real nitty gritty. About 2 weeks, almost to the day or so, until the Democratic National Convention. It will be virtual. And this is going to be something totally different, of course, with COVID-19. But Vice President Joe Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden, that is, says that he is going to announce his vice presidential pick this week or within a week. And this is very important because there's a lot riding on this. Let's give a little history on this. When Barack Obama ran for president, he texted his nominee 2 days before the convention. Well, of course, it's more than 2 days now, but there's a lot more interest in this. The vice presidential position has been largely ceremonial over the years, but it's taken on greater significance. One can point to George W. Bush's vice president, Dick Cheney. Some look at him as the most powerful vice president that ever existed in that office. Of course, he served in Congress. He was chief of staff also to a president. But besides that, though, it's very interesting. His approval ratings upon leaving Congress were only 13%, probably one of the lowest ever. Then you have somebody like, say, for instance, a Sarah Palin. She probably single-handedly derailed John McCain's chances of ever becoming president. Perhaps if he chose somebody else, a stronger person, maybe that would have made the difference for him. But of course, history speaks for itself. So the position has evolved over the years. Of course, Trump chose Mike Pence. Why? He certainly has experience in government. And of course, as we know, Trump certainly needed that. I don't know how much it's going to help him with getting reelected again. But the bottom line is that's the way it has been. Here we are in 2020, about 98 days now away from the election in November. And we have a vice presidential pick that a number of people are looking at. The polls speak something different. They're saying people are not as concerned about Biden's VP pick. I think the polls are wrong on this one, because this perhaps more than any other is important because of Biden's age. He's in his 70s. I think he's about 76 or 77 years old. Some people think he may not even last through this term. And whoever he picks will be president. So therefore, a lot of eyes and ears are on this. Who should he pick? Should he pick a woman of color? Because he said he's going to pick a woman. Some people say so. Might it be somebody else? We're going to go over this, and we're going to bring in, of course, our trusty friend, Eric Ham, of course, political analyst extraordinaire and best-selling author, to talk about these issues. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Hey, Julian, good to be with you.
Listen, I want to go through these picks here. We've got at least 9 picks right now. I mean, I don't think some people say they've whittled down more than that, but I want to start with the black candidates. Number one, I just want to get your opinion on why you think, or maybe not, that Biden should have a woman who is of color as his running mate. What are your thoughts?
Well, Julian, I want to start with this. This will be a consequential pick because, in fact, of Joe Biden's age. And if we go back to a number of picks presidential candidates have made in the past, oftentimes they typically don't bring what many people have hoped. We saw with when John Kerry picked John Edwards. John Edwards certainly didn't deliver the state of North Carolina. And so it turned out to be an inconsequential pick. Even to this day, I'm still trying to figure out why, in fact, or what was the reasoning behind why Barack Obama picked Joe Biden. I still haven't figured that out. I still haven't gotten an answer to that. It's not like he needed a state. What it did was maybe it gave him a sense of having someone who seemed a little bit more seasoned, particularly in foreign affairs. We were, at the height of the Iraq War. People wondered about President Barack Obama's judgment and picking someone. And I think that was actually a detriment to John McCain, picking someone like Sarah Palin, who clearly came off as someone who perhaps was not ready for the job in any way, shape, or form.
Wait a minute, Eric. Wait a minute. She said she could see Russia from Alaska. Isn't that important?
You know what, Julian? I should have started with hold my beer, which means don't interrupt me.
Yes, sir.
So going back to Sarah Palin, clearly, what we're looking at now when we see these candidates who will be at the top of the ticket making these picks, people are looking at their judgment. that goes a long way. Even with Donald Trump, with all of the baggage that he brought, picking someone like Mike Pence, a governor of Indiana, a tried and true conservative, that actually allayed the fears of most conservatives and Republicans, that he had someone who had been in the office, had been in Washington, and they saw him as someone who could steer the presidency if, in fact, Donald Trump came off the rails. And so with this pick, as you mentioned, what Joe Biden is going to need is someone who people can look to and say, if, in fact, something happens, can this woman actually step in and lead? And now to your question should it be a woman of color? Many people actually suggest that it should. One, because of the moment and the time that we're in. We're seeing 2/3 of the nation already concerned with issues of racial discord and racial division. In fact, now much of the polls are showing even much of white America now believes that the issue of Black Lives Matter does in fact now matter. And so that's something that is also holding into account. In addition to that, and this is key here, many people believe it is the Black community that single-handedly resuscitated Joe Biden's presidential bid. And because of that, Black people are old, and therefore he should pick a woman of color.
And I'm a witness to that, as a matter of fact, too. And we know that impassioned speech by Jim Clyburn, that was like a snowball effect for the primaries that took place after that. Let's go down the list here real quickly here. I want to go with
But before you get to your list, can I just say this? Because for the people who are watching, the people who are listening, this is how your list should operate. Let's just, because I know Kamala Harris is on that list. Kamala Harris is basically the bar that is set, that any person that you mention on this list should be able to clear that bar. And what I mean by that is, have they been elected statewide? Have they, do they have the name ID? Can they bring the energy? And also in the case of Kamala Harris, we have seen she has been tried having run a presidential candidate race campaign, even though it failed. So I think we need to put her at her credentials, what she brings to the table as the bar, and everyone else, do they clear that bar in terms of their ability to actually be an effective running mate? Go ahead.
So in other words, is this the high jump or is this the Lindy Hop, I guess?
This is the pole vault.
This is the pole vault. Okay, I like that. Okay.
Yeah. Screw that. Yeah, you gotta carry that. You gotta carry that big long stick all the way down. And you need speed, strength, agility, all of that. Kamala Harris is bringing all that. Now, and I don't want the listeners to get it twisted. It's not like I'm advocating for Kamala Harris, but Kamala Harris brings a lot of advantages that many of these people need to have. So let's start with. Let's see what you got.
Okay. So we got Val Demings. What do you think, Congresswoman out of Florida? What do you think?
I think she's good. Former police chief from Orlando, Florida, a state that is hit hard by COVID, a state that basically Donald Trump desperately needs. If he loses Florida, it's the ball game. We know he's losing it right now. So clearly she looks good from that perspective. In addition, she was also one of the impeachment managers. But again, she has not been in the fire of a presidential campaign. Also, she has not run and won statewide.
All right, let's set her off to the side. Representative Karen Bass out of California.
Next.
That's cold. Okay.
Next.
We'll leave it alone. Stacey Abrams out of Georgia.
Next, with a caveat. Stacey Abrams, a lot of people think Stacey Abrams should be on this list. But here's the thing about Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams, I believe, is the rightful heir to the governorship of Georgia. George Kemp stole it. Stacey should have won it, but unfortunately, she did not. And so because of that, I mean, she does not bring the executive experience. Clearly, she has a way of appealing to people, and she put a red state in play. But unlike Kamala, she hasn't won statewide, and that counts for something.
All right, Keisha Lance Bottoms out of Atlanta, the mayor.
Keisha Lance Bottoms, I think And there are some people who actually don't think she should be on this list because she's a first-term mayor of a big city. Yes, but I think what we're seeing with Keisha Lance Bottoms' effectiveness and leadership, the city of Atlanta in particular, is the front line, basically, not only in the COVID battle, but also on this fight against racial discord and division. She is battling the police. She is battling a virus. She is battling a governor, and she is doing it with depth. She is doing it with foresight. She's doing it with vision. I like her, and I think she's got that ability to fight. Look, this woman just got over COVID-19 herself.
Exactly.
We know this woman is a fighter. So yeah, I like her. I like her in this role. I like her in that position. I think she'd be someone who, because what you want in a vice president, you want someone who's going to uphold and stand up for those ideals of the candidate themselves. And I think she will do that. However, we still don't know if she can handle a national spotlight. And also, she doesn't really know her way around Washington. Remember, Kamala Harris is a sitting U.S. senator, and that does go a long way.
Yeah, Keisha Lance Bottoms, I think she's effective. She stared, of course, down the governor in the face, when he challenged her on the use of masks there. And, of course, she had that great speech when we were talking about violence in Atlanta and also people wearing masks. I think that's really where she got a lot of her upcomings, and people really are starting to look at her. But I think a lot of Americans look more on style as opposed to substance. Not that she doesn't have it, but as you said, she doesn't have the experience. A favorite on my list, and we talked about this the other day, is Susan Rice, former national security advisor under Obama. Your thoughts?
Okay, hold my other beer. This is what I'm going to say about Susan Rice. Susan Rice is a stalwart of the foreign policy arena. She served in the Clinton administration as an assistant secretary of state for African affairs. She is a known quantity in Washington, and she does relish and she loves the fight. She's got sharp elbows. Just for your viewers, when I was working for a think tank here in Washington, I remember one time Susan Rice was at the Brookings Institute at the time. And so she came over to our institution. I guess she had meetings there. When she came in the building, and remember, she did not work there. When she came in the building, we were going around the hallway saying, Susan Rice is in the building. Susan Rice is in the building. This is a woman who's got sharp elbows, who will cut you like a Kansas City pimp in 2 seconds. And while she has that ability to fight, while she has that level of comfort with Joe Biden, this is someone who has never, ever been in the political arena at all. And so I think, is this a moment, is this a time where you want to trust someone like that with this moment? Because again, we have seen Kamala Harris being the bar. We have seen Kamala Harris stare down the bright lights of running both a statewide campaign in the most populous state in the country, as well as running a presidential campaign where at one time she was considered a top-tier candidate. That counts for something.
All right, but someone will look at her and her prosecutorial record in the state of California there, and criminal justice reform and stuff like that, and say, hey, there's some question marks there about Kamala Harris.
Absolutely, there are. There are, and that is one of the concerns. Look, and there's another candidate who I think should be on your list that isn't there. And but we were just talking about black women, but there's another woman of color, Senator Tammy Duckworth. U.S. Senator, Iraq War veteran.
She is on my list. You didn't let me get to her. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm just real excited. But I do believe, when we're talking about Susan Rice and we're talking about her role, her ability, and we're talking about Kamala Harris's prosecutorial experience, that is something that she's going to have to defend. But I think when you look at where Kamala Harris is now, and when you see how she has used those prosecutorial chops to great effect as a member not only of the Judiciary Committee, but also the intelligence community, where she has had to focus on this issue of both Russia and also grilling people like Attorney General William Barr. We see the effect that she brings, the effect that she has, and all of her colleagues, even on the right, believe and say that she is a good senator.
Absolutely.
And so I think a lot of that outweighs the concerns that she does have, or that people will have about her prosecutorial record. She just has to be able to speak to that.
We got to wrap this up in a few minutes here. I want to talk about two white possibilities here, potentials. One, Elizabeth Warren, of course, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and also Senator Amy Klobuchar. Some would say, specifically with Klobuchar, she might be able to help because she is a senator of a swing state, and that might help. What are your thoughts about that? And as well as Elizabeth Warren.
Let's take Amy Klobuchar first. You remember that scene? My favorite movie is The Godfather. There's a scene where Vito Corleone comes home from the hospital, and all of his henchmen are surrounding him in the bed, and they're telling him what's going on. And then he speaks in that very raspy voice. He can hardly talk, and he says, "Where's Michael?" And everyone knows what he's saying,
right?
But then they have to say it again, and he has to say it louder. "Where's Michael?" So Sonny leans down and says, "It was Mike." No, I'm sorry. It was Tom Hagen who leans over and says, "It was Michael who killed Captain McCluskey. He's safe. We're working to bring him home." The Godfather closes his eyes and waves everybody off. When you bring up Amy Klobuchar.
Okay, gotcha.
Now let's talk about Elizabeth Warren.
Okay,
Elizabeth Warren, I think, has the great chops. I think she'd make a great VP candidate. I think just in this moment, in this time right now, I think that would just be problematic given the moment and the time that we're in. And I think it's also very condescending for some people to say Vice President Biden needs to pick a candidate that Black people will get behind. He needs to pick Elizabeth Warren. Get the bleep out of here with that.
I don't get that either. I think she'd be more of a lightning rod and a deterrent, personally, than any of the others, based upon her personality and who she is. But look, this has been a good thing. I'm going to ask you before I let you go, though. I think you probably already said it. The person that sets the bar in your mind that he will pick. As a matter of fact, there was a note that we were talking about earlier. People took a picture of it where he had some notes of Kamala Harris on there. I guess you're saying that Kamala Harris will be his pick for the vice president.
I'm not saying she will be the pick at this point. I think it's anyone's guess. I think they've done a really good job of keeping us guessing. Early on, I would have said it's going away, Kamala Harris. I still think she's in his top 2 or 3. But I think for the energy and for the excitement that he needs, and also given that he's a 77-year-old man, Elizabeth Warren is a 70-year-old woman. Kamala Harris and even Susan Rice, they're both in their mid-50s. So they bring the age. Kamala in particular brings that age. She brings that experience. She brings that street cred that I think he needs. And I think she would do well for him at this moment, at this time.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out on a limb, since you're not going to do so. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think it's going to be Kamala Harris is going to be his pick. That's what I believe. It's going to happen. Watch. Trust me on this one. Trust me. Trust me, Eric. This is going to happen.
We'll be back here next week when he makes his pick, and then we'll be talking about it.
Yeah, and we also have to talk about black on black crime. That's come up again. There's a lot of passion about this on both sides, even amongst people of color, and we need to unpack that and talk about the fallacies of black on black crime, what it is, what it isn't, and how it fits into the whole genre and scheme of this country, which was built on violence.
You got it.
Eric, I'll see you next week.
You bet, buddy. Thanks.
Okay. I do think that Kamala Harris is going to get it. I wasn't a big fan of hers initially, especially on her prosecutorial record in California, and also how she dealt with black on black crime. But basically, as far as I can see it now, Biden is going to need somebody who can get in there immediately and handle in case something happens to him. We hope that does not happen. But yeah, the bar is set high because she does have the credentials. She knows how Washington works. She's run a campaign. She's run for president. She sat on some very important committees in Congress and in the Senate. So, I think that she is the bar if they're going to get somebody of color. And yes, I do personally believe that Biden and the Democratic Party, as I've said so before, owes Black Americans. They owe it to us to do something for us, to put somebody in there of substance Kamala Harris has it. Some of the others do too. I think she's at the top of the pile on this. But they owe us. They really do. And we should keep their feet to the fire on this. Let's see what happens. We'll know in about a week, and we're going to talk about this again. And I want to thank all of you for joining in and also tuning in when we talk about black on black crime. Huge in the news these days. What it is, what it isn't. We're going to keep you on point on that issue. See you next week.